Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this special session of WeBookClub. Thank you all for joining us today as we explore the exciting world of AI and innovation. WeBookClub 是咱们渥太华地区华人自发组织的一个非营利机构。我们成立的目的呢，是通过阅读和交流，实现自我的开智，帮助我们会员呢体验更美好的人生。今天到场的呢有许多非会员的朋友，我们的大门是敞开的，欢迎更多的朋友加入我们。首先呢，我们要感谢我们华联会的卢主席 Harry， 为我们提供了这次场地，同时卢主席积极的要求加入了我们的读书会，而且当场把这个120块钱的会费交给了我们。我们再次表示感谢。人工智能呢是当下最热门的一个话题。其实我们大家可能没有意识到我们正面临着第4次工业革命的开始。大家知道我们这辈子都是非常幸运的，我们赶上了2次，对吧？第一次蒸汽机带来的工业革命，到第2次电力带来的工业革命，经历了100多年。而从第2次到第3次计算机和互联网技术带来的工业革命，大概呢70年。那么从第3次工业革命到现在的第4次工业革命，就是以人工智能为主要这个变革力量的，当然也加上其他的生物技术包括这个叫做工业4.0，对吧？加在一起，这个呢大概不到50年。所以我们有幸赶上2次工业革命，这是令人振奋的因为我们的生活大家能感受到发生了迅速的发生了巨大的变化。那么我们读书会从2024年3月29号正式注册成立以来，到现在，我们呢已经举办了2次关于人工智能这个主题的活动。那么其中第1次呢是24年的6月份，是由我带领大家呢阅读了李飞飞的《The World I See》这本书。那么通过这本书呢，我们了解了 AI 的发展的这个历程和这个现状。那么第2次活动呢是去年的12月，我们请到了华为研究院的陈伯兴博士，带领大家读的是一本叫《走进具身智能》的这本书，是陈星写的。那么这本书呢，让大家了解了什么是 embodied AI， 然后呢，使我们整个会员对 AI 技术的应用有了更深入的了解。那么正如大家所看到的，这个 AI 技术的应用呢，最近是有了突破性的发展。去年的11月，这个大家可能关注到的就是奥地利的一个叫 Vibe Coder Peter Stabler， 他推出了一个就是叫做后来改名叫 WeBookClub， 开始不是这个名字，它是虚拟助理工具。那么 Peter 说呢，他说 I wanted an AI that can actually do things, not just telling you what to do。所以这就是从这个一个告诉你一个知识性的东西，对吧？进入到了一个应用的，它能替你干事情的一个阶段。所以呢，这个今年1月份这个 WeBookClub 定名以后，就变成爆火全球。那么我们中国的开发者呢，马上就把这个 WeBookClub 用跟 DeepSeek 这个大模型结合，跟微信 WeChat 结合来做。所以当时呢，我记得3月6号，我正好在深圳腾讯的这个北广场，腾讯那北广场有上千人在那里排队干什么呢？装龙虾所以这个呢，就是说 以前我们知道中国很流行就是搞活动送鸡蛋，对吧？发鸡蛋。现在这是腾讯给大家发龙虾，所以就可以想象这个热度。因为这1000多人来的装龙虾的这些人，各行各业、各种年龄，什么人都有，还有一些退休老头老太太，他们真的是以为是免费的好东西来了，对吧？所以这个后来呢，中国就掀起了龙虾热。那么大家可以知道，就是说现在这个闲鱼上500块钱装龙虾，299卸龙虾，因为很多人不知道装龙虾干什么，装了以后就乱了，对吧？又还得花钱把它卸掉。当然这是我们讲的是一个生活里头我们经历的事情。实际上呢，就是说到今年2月呢，全球用 WeBookClub 就这个 AI agent 来创业公司已经超过了4800多家。所以今天呢，是我们读书会第3场关于 AI 主题的活动。首先，我们要感谢我们的会员海燕，因为今天的主讲人是海燕的大公子，Daniel Chen， 就是陈天林先生。这个 Daniel 呢，他是毕业于华九大学的计算数学专业，然后毕业以后呢，他去了华尔街，这个在一个 security 就叫做 Citadel Security， 他负责做呢高阶系统和定量模型。后来呢，他就离开华尔街，进入创业公司一家叫旧金山去硅谷了，叫 anything.com。那么他负责呢，他担任研究员，负责这个带领团队呢评估研究 AI agent， 然后测试呢自动程式码的正确性，解决合并冲突、文件重排，还有呢就全对列能力，最后就是设计质量。也就是说 anything.com 等一下Daniel会给我们介绍，其实就是用 AI agent 来做一些事情。那现在呢 Daniel 是硅谷创业公司 fabricate 的创始人之一和首席科学家。他们计划呢是为全球的，特别是中国的这个独立的消费电子领域的 ODM 制造商，构建这个 AI agent。The topic Daniel will share with us today is AI agents from anything.com to fabricate.to. We will hear about the evolution of AI agents from general purpose creative tools like anything.com to specialized industry transforming solutions that are reshaping how physical products are brought to life. Daniel's journey represents the perfect blend of vision, technical depth, and real-world application. Exactly the kind of inspiring story we love at WeBookClub. So please join me giving a big round of applause for our speaker today, Daniel Chen. Daniel, the stage is yours.
Is this working?
Yeah, it's working.
Working? Yes? Okay. Is it in here? Okay. Thank you everyone for having me. I hope this sounds okay. Let's set the timer. Okay, I'd like to talk about AI agents today. Thank you for the brief, quick introduction, and thank you so much for the opportunity to have me to speak with all of you today. Okay, let's talk. So, I figured I'd make this deck using AI agents, just so that you can understand how useful AI agents are. So, the agent didn't do all of it, so they're not good enough to be able to do the whole thing for me, but it's much faster. Something like this probably used to take me, a couple days. Now it's more like a couple hours, right? So the important thing is that AI agents, they're not, they haven't achieved AGI just yet. They're not infinitely smart. They still kind of but they're very fast. They don't get tired. So the important thing, I think, is to learn how to leverage them. They're like a tool to basically make you faster than you were before, right? No different than when the internet made people faster. Before the internet, you have to read through books very slowly, right? You have to look at the index, the glossary, right? Very time consuming. You may not have the right book. So agents just takes that another level, right? So in this screenshot, actually, maybe I'll move that a little bit away. Is that okay? Is this still okay?
I think there might be another mic on this.
Do you want to?
There's some echo.
Do you want to use this one? Do you want to use this one instead?
Maybe let me just try like this, a little bit away from you. Maybe
Okay.
do that. Or maybe turn that one off.
Yeah, just
We
use that
already
one.
turned it
off.
Yeah, yeah. This will sound okay, right? It's fine. Okay. So you have this is literally just me talking to the agent, right? It's pretty straightforward. I just building my slide deck. Here's what I like and what I don't like about it. Right? If you look very carefully, my current job is working on fabricate. The entire folder below is actually me working on fabricate in parallel. So even in fabricate, anybody who works in software or AI, nobody types code by hand anymore. Okay. So let's make that clear. If you're writing code by hand, you're falling behind. So everyone in San Francisco, including San, all does everything using AI. Huh? Okay, so what is an AI agent? It's very simple. So AI agents are basically just things that do stuff for you. It's like a chatbot, but better. So in the old days of 2024, the old days, because 2 years is 200 years in AI time. It's eternity. 2 years is a very long time. In 2024, you could talk to ChatGPT and it could tell you something. Now in 2026, you talk to an agent and it tells you something. And sometimes it may even call these things called tools to actually get you a better answer. Or it might do something to actually, search the web and might calculate something for you. Right? We're doing these things that the old AI LLMs couldn't do. Right? So as I said, agents basically do things in the real world. So this example, you ask the agent something, I need to do something. And you can see in this list, it's not just telling you stuff. It's actually saying, oh, I checked your calendars for all 6 of my days. I found an optimal time, so calculate some time, and then it took a conference room, so on and so forth. Right? So these are just examples, some examples of what AI agents can do for you. Okay? So I kind of already alluded to this. So in 2024, again, used to be that the chat will just only talk to you. Right? And oftentimes it tells you actually something that's not entirely true, something it thinks is true. Right? But now, it can search, these AI agents can basically search the web, right? They can make you slides, for example, like this slide. Right? They can write it on code. So when I work at Fabricate, also my previous job at anything.com, basically starting in January 2026, nobody is writing code by hand anymore. In 2025, the LLMs were not good. Okay? It's about as good as writing code by hand. Now it's strictly better to write code using AI. Right? So if you're not using AI, you are basically falling behind. Okay, so this is just an example of what I'm trying to say about AI agents versus just plain LLMs. So it's a two-turn conversation. The first part is literally just me asking, who's the second US president? Right? Some of you may know it's John Adams. The LLM also memorizes the fact that it's John Adams. Right? So any LLM can memorize this kind of response. But you can get very specific. And when you get very specific, those answers can no longer be memorized. For example, if I ask, how many days was he alive for? Right? Or I could say, how many seconds is he alive for? Right? Then this panel will show, okay, wait, I actually have to calculate. The agent does not have to calculate how long he was alive for. And then it rolls some code in Python. It says, okay, take this. I know the birthday and the end date. And I subtract those ranges, right? So it's doing something that you used to have to do by hand. Or, you do something manually, right? So just imagine these sorts of manual tasks. You don't have to do this anymore. You just use the agents. Okay. Any questions? Make sense? 你有一个问题吗？
Yeah, this one actually makes maybe a good example.
Yes. Okay. This is very basic example.
Yeah, basic.
Yeah, it's very basic. So the question is, so what if I can calculate the dates, right? So my mom was her question was, this is so simple. I can do that by hand. Why is that? Why is that with you?
I use my mind just
Right, of course. Okay, she can calculate the number of days in her head. So she's that smart. She can do that without the agents. But it gets interesting when you want to actually build something. For example, my previous job, anything.com, right? Or AI app loader, right? So imagine in the old days, you have to pay someone, 200K. You just have to pay like entire company of people, 200K per person to build your website. Right? Now this website, actually I made this website while working at anything.com. I didn't write any code for this website. Okay. 100% written by the AI agent in anything to build this website. My mom wanted me to get a better picture, but this is the best. This is the best one I got. Right? So
But that one is not just a website, it's an app, right? It's an app.
sorry,
It's app, it's not just website.
they're the same. The app website, they're just the same thing. So she's asking about app versus website. So application versus web. So application is a bit more generic. So website, you go to www.google.com. That is a website. There are applications on your MacBook, and there are applications on your phone. Those are applications. Some people also say app as in a website you go to. So application is a broader term. But websites are basically types of applications. So it's a good question. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so that's website I built, right? So coding agents. So first slide, I already showed you the coding agent. This is everybody who is in San Francisco, who is a software engineer or researcher, is using basically one of these two things. And if they're not doing one of these two things, then they are very behind. They are either using Codex. So Codex is OpenAI's flagship product for coding, right, on your desktop. And then their number one competitor is obviously Anthropic, right? And Anthropic is building basically Claude Code, right? So Claude Code was a little bit faster. They launched their flagship Sonnet 4.6 model. That was the one I mentioned, January 2026, was when it all kind of changed. They launched, Anthropic was first. They launched this really good coding model, right? And so suddenly everyone's like, okay, now we have to, it's basically paradigm shift, right? But how you, they're going through this. Yeah. Okay, I think the question that you're asking about evaluations, right? Yes, yes. So we will talk about that. Yes. So that's a very good question. The question was basically, how do I know which ones are good for which things? And another question that you would follow, which one is better overall? Right? So evaluations is a very hard question. Probably the hardest part of this whole thing, right? Because how do you make a meaningful benchmark, right? Something that is actually tested, right? It's very hard for these types of systems because they are multi-turn, they are long horizon, right? And so it's really like, because the field is so new, really, like people, like there are benchmarks that exist. And so those benchmarks, we don't know how good the benchmarks are, but we know how good the agents do on them. But like one might get 90% on the benchmark, and another might get 70, but maybe that benchmark doesn't mean anything, right? So that's a very hard question to objectively say, is this objectively better than that? And so a lot of what we talk about is like, oh, my vibe chat, for what I do, you can try different things in parallel because it's so cheap to run these things, right? The tokens are so cheap, right? Like a $200 a month pro subscription, you can run Codex at like 12 hours a day for like a week. Right?
That's my question.
Okay. We will talk about the evaluation stuff, but yes, that's a very good question. Thank you. Okay, so fabricate, another example of this. So instead of building websites, why don't you build something harder, as in real hardware, hence the name. So if you see in this screenshot, you can see, actually my prompt is very trivial. I said just build a meeting recorder, right? And then it just kind of goes. It says, okay, let me do that. Build your meeting recorder. And then it can call those tools I talked about, right? So it has a catalog of components, electronic components, or catalog of materials, or catalog of whatever, so on and so forth. It just searches all those catalogs, and it just keeps going. And then pretty much at the end, you just get like a schematic. I showed this schematic to you, actually get you a 3D like model kind of useful. But this is another example. It's like the agent just does the work that you used to have to do. You already know what you want to do, which is you want to do meeting reports. You can be very specific, or you can be less specific and allowed to be very creative. Right? So in this case, it didn't ask me any questions. It was just, okay, I'll think of some example for you. A lot of people actually use AI agents this way. They don't know what they want just yet, but they want an example of it, and they can use it to inspire, right? To give you examples. That's why a lot of people use the image generation or video generation. They're like, I need some example logo for my business or for my book club, right? and you generate some example, then you pick the best one you like, and then you try again. You generate some more examples. Keep picking the best one, right? Maybe that's easier than before. We have to imagine it all. So, agents all the way down. So, again, Chinese arena. So this is the view of the builder in anything like that. So, what I mean by agents all the way down, again, all the developers in Silicon Valley, they use Codex or Plug to build their business. So everyone, anything, uses Codex or Plug to build anything.com. Anything.com is a platform that runs another agent. That agent then builds my website, right? Okay. So even this screenshot on the right is from a blog post, so 2026, blog post from OpenAI. So they basically talked about how are they using AI. And they said, okay, basically, before not everybody was using AI. Now everybody uses ChatGPT and Codex at a company. It's a little bit circular, right? The entire company is using its own product. And then they're using Codex to build Codex. So again, it's not truly logically circular, but it's very interesting. So agents all the way down. Now that you have agents that are very good, you no longer need to build anything like this. As long as you have one agent that's good enough, you can build that. Build more agents using those agents. Okay. I'm going to that. Okay. Pretty straightforward. So as you get done, you already kind of showed examples. Right? You ask it a question, you say, build me a meeting recorder app, build me a Chinese learning website, whatever you want. Okay. And then basically those agents will do the following three things. Right? They will basically go find the context. So context, the step 2, looking for the context is actually very important because I said at the beginning, the agents, they're not smart, but what they're very good at is search. They can handle a lot more context than human, right? They can know all the facts in the world. They're just not very smart about it, but they can find you the facts and the context you really got. And number 3 is to build the right app. So or use the right app. Right? So it's like you ask it, I need to check my emails, right? For something. I lost this email. It will search your emails. So you can do these things very well. And then number 4 is very simple. Come back to you the habit. Okay.
他希望有的部分可以说两个中文吗？
可以说点中文。
可以说两个中文吗？有的
有点是 technical。
你待会儿也许给大家演示你那个 Chinese arena the chance。
Okay. But listen, I couldn't get Wi-Fi, so I couldn't go there and get them on there. Okay. Yeah, pretty similar to the previous slide. So again, you're getting those agents goals or tasks, right? The number one thing to point out this slide is the concept of access. Okay, so that we'll also talk about AI safety, right? Using your app safety. So those, again, the agents, they're not smart. They build safety into the model, but you still have to be prudent when you use them. Some people choose to give their agent a lot of permissions. They give that full access to the laptop, right? Or the full access to the desktop. Right? You want to be careful what you have on your computer and you give it access to it, right? Because it can do anything with that. It shouldn't do things you don't want to do. But from what I've observed in my experience, not everyone can necessarily articulate so clearly know exactly what they want to happen, right? In those cases, you may see ambiguous things happen. Does the task I'm trying to do actually need that context, right? Maybe it does, and then if you don't allow it, then it can't do it. But you want to basically be cautious. Right? More practical agent jobs, right? So research is a really good example of using AI. Actually, I think research in terms of there's two types of research. There's research in the market, research, find me a good lawyer, find me a good real estate agent, something like that, right? This type of research, very good at it. It's very good at it. It's good at aggregating a lot of web search results. There's also academic style research. So your PhD researcher, 博士, one kind of 博士, right? You do research. It's very good at academic style. Right? Something it's maybe not as good at yet is writing novels. So a lot of people who are writers, even myself included, I tried using AI writing for novels or writing a story, writing like something more simple. It just doesn't sound the same as if I human wrote. So again, it's up to you to kind of discover for now for your use case. Is it good enough for that use case? Oh, thank you.
给大家演示一下比较好。
什么？
演示一个你那个 Chinese arena。
We can yeah, great. I got the
Okay, with the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Okay. Shopping for simple. Okay. So what is a tool? Yeah, we kind of went over this a few times. So again, searching information is very important. Other good examples are things like, creating calendar invites to, like, making sure there's no conflicts. Emails, editing your files. So for example, your slideshows. One of my coworkers actually used to work at a startup called Ride. So it's an AI agent for shopping. Right? So you don't have to click around anything. Right? It's actually very tiring to click around. At least I find that. I used to find clicking on the websites is so easy. I used to have the muscle. Now I don't have time for that. I tell the agent, go click around on the website for me. Come back, right? My time is more valuable than the tokens that I pay to the agent. Right? Every day places agent showing. Okay, so again, shopping, team chat. Right? Team chat, so a good example is Slack. Anyone use Slack? Everybody here use WeChat, I guess, right? WeChat. But for Slack, for example, we have the AI agents that transcribe the meeting for you. So you talk with your meeting, and then nobody has to take notes anymore. Because the AI agent just listens, and it just basically jots down everything for you. Get a nice transcript of everything that happened, right? And again, the safety. So I said this briefly before. The AI safety. So again, be smart about when you are running the agent. Right? Make sure that you are not just auto-approved. A lot of these tools actually have an auto-approve option. Right? You can auto-approve if you're seeing the same thing over here. Auto-approve. So this is again one of those things you have to iterate with it yourself. You have to discover what level of permissions should I allow for the agent, right? So
这个 safety 很重要。
重要，
对，
很重要。
举个例子，哪个我都没想过这个 safety 什么 access。
你没想过？
举个例子。
I guess, because once you have an agent, people are concerned about the safety and the security of their own identity information, like credentials, right? Like how do we make sure we are on the safe parameters?
The easiest way is to just always review. So usually you allow your agent to start. It starts in a little workspace, a folder on its own. So sorry, the question was how do you ensure your AI agent is safe? And so I say, usually when you create these agents, you make sure it always creates it in like a little folder, empty folder. So it starts doing work, right? It's the part where it can get unsafe is if you say, oh, I need some documents from my computer. I want it to look at my pictures. I want it to look at my emails. Oh wait, not all those pictures are actually meant for the agent. Maybe I have some, other things in there that are not meant for the agent. So the safest policy is one is never auto-approve. They often give you auto-approve because you trust the LLM, the agent to be smart. But if you really want to be sure, the way is to copy the data you actually need into that folder. So the tools always offer a way. You can paste the data you actually need into the folder, right? And so then it stays in that folder, like a sandbox, right? So it's stuck inside of the fishbowl or whatever, inside of the room, it can't get out, right? the safest, it's the easiest policy. Yes, so again, approvals, trust, speed and cost, often good questions. So if you're giving it, one of the big things is so cost. So sometimes people do pay per use or as you go billing, right? So you want to be careful you don't let it keep going. Sometimes people go and you hear these posts on Twitter, they say, oh, my agent spent $2,000 overnight because it just kept going. It spun up like sub-agents, whatever, it kept going. So for these things, you want to set a cap on your billing. Right? You say, I'm not going to let it spend more than $50 for this task. And if it can't finish it, it'll just stop. You come back in the morning, right? And it will be like, okay, this is how far I got. And I only spent $50 or $49. Right? It doesn't run your whole bank account right into the ground. Right? Again, privacy, we talked about that. Right? So make sure your data, only the data you wanted to see has been permissioned or is put into the sandbox. Right? Accuracy is very important too. We'll talk about that next. So another aspect of safety. So safety, we talked about privacy. Safety also means in terms of the accuracy of the information you get from the LLM. So there's a common phenomenon when it comes to using AI agents. Or reading things written by agents. The phenomenon is, if you're an expert in that field, you'll be like, this AI agent's really stupid, right? What's it thinking, right? It wrote all these things. It's like, there's no way that's true. It's completely wrong. You read something by AI in a field you don't know, it's like, wow, it's so smart. we don't need humans anymore to do any of this, right? And so that is, what is that? What is that example? It means that AI is very good at writing things that sound right. It sounds very convincing because it has been trained on a large corpus. Actually, I should not say large corpus. It has been trained on the entire corpus of all human writing that is on the internet. The entire internet has been scraped, is in that element. So it's very good at writing sentences that sound grammatically correct, that sound proper. But that does not mean the facts are actually correct, right? So you can look at the research. Sometimes anywhere from like 10% to even 94% can be wrong about these things, especially if that knowledge is more obscure. Right? Sure, if you're an expert on something very random that nobody knows about, then it'll be very hard. Yes, no question.
Quick question on hallucination prevention. So given the fact that the whole internet is scraped, is there certain languages that are more accurate, other languages that hallucinate more, or is it just going to be more perfect? Like for instance, somebody say, hey, I want to use this in French, or I want to use this in Mandarin. Is the answer going to be like the level of being trusted at around the same level as English, or do you have to add like, hey, double check?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Very sharp. Okay, he asked a very good question. He said, are hallucinations more likely or less likely in a different language? So, I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but I would not necessarily say that a more popular language has less hallucinations. Why would I say that? Intuitively, you might think English, whole internet is English, has more data. Shouldn't that mean it's more accurate, right? That also means, however, that there's a lot of bad data out there, right? They scrape everything, right? They scrape everything from Reddit, whatever, like everything. A lot of like fake data online, right? And so it might be the case that, maybe something more obscure, like the Basque language. We're talking about the Basque language in France. Very isolated, maybe 90,000 people speak it. All the resources online are like published works. It's not really like forums. It's just published works from like trusted authors, right? So I would not claim whether it is more or less likely to happen in a different language. That's a very good question. Yes, and I think the answer must be out there somewhere. Someone has definitely benchmarked that already. Yes. Yeah. So again, the point of this is just to say that again, be very confident. One time when I went to the personal anecdote, I planned some of my trip using AI when I went to Europe. I was like, I'll use AI. I'll use AI. It just has all the knowledge, right? It told me many things. Some of the things were right. Some of those things were quite not true, actually. I went to a museum in Belgium, parliamentarian, and AI keeps telling me, you have to bring your passport, you have to bring your passport, you have to. Like, I keep asking, check for that, I can tell you. And he says, yes, you have to. I get there, I go like, and nobody asked for the passport. Nobody asked. And I go to the agent and say, why do you tell me you have to bring your passport? And it just says, oh, okay, sorry, I was wrong. It just backs up, so it's okay. I didn't say that, something like that.
Mind repeat that. you should then give feedback. Is that correct? Correct.
I might provide feedback if they give me money. Yes.
So is there any ways they can recognize wrong information? AI?
So the one thing that I put here that I should clarify, I didn't just say, are you sure? So my recommendation is basically say check the web to be sure. These AI agents can search the web and then they can read the web for you. They pull in those documents. Now, problem with that is that maybe the web is wrong, right? The web could be wrong, right? And the only way the AI agent could be sure that like something has gone wrong is if something against its training data is different, and it's what it found is also something contradictory between those things. Right? It's like you read two pieces of information, they tell you something else. Like one is like, oh, it's at 11 a.m. This thing is actually it's at 10. Then you would ask like, oh wait, why are they not the same? Right? But it still happens. The case that it trained on something that said it's at 10 a.m. It searched the web again, it says 10 a.m. But actually that thing has changed. And it's the reason it could not know is because those people at Buckingham Palace changed the time to 11 a.m. and they didn't tell them. And then there's just no way, right? Because it's not accessible to the AI agent. Right? So it is a hard question. It's getting to the point of like, you know, how would anyone, not just AI, how would anyone know that this information is wrong or right? So it's a hard question. But basically the suggestion is that you search the web, you know, search this thing, search that, try to ground it. We call it grounding. Grounding is like a good term. You ground it in like actual information it found, live information, rather than data it was trained on 2 years ago. So that was a common problem where before people kind of discovered this grounding thing, you could ask an LLM, what is the day? Right? And it would say, oh, it's October 1st, 2024. Just because that is the last day, that's the cutoff of its training data. Right? So even something very basic like that, it's not grounded yet. But then it calls a tool, calls the time tool, calls the calendar tool, search the web. So wait, actually, it's not that day. Right? It's July 4th, 2026. Right? How do you make it happen? Right. This is your question. How do you know it's actually good? Okay. So again, a lot of benchmarks, right? A little bit of shameless false advertising, okay? So I worked on some benchmarks myself, okay, around refactoring, right? But basically, generically, any task you want to give the agent, right? You need some sort of, usually the way it's done is you create these benchmarks from human experts, right? So like you have, for example, for math competitions, this is a classic example. You guys read the news, whatever, around math. And parents' towels are like, oh, citizen mathematics, and they say, oh, like, how good would the LLM do on the IMO, International Math Olympiad? Usually there's some benchmark created, some human expert, all the experts come together, like, this is what the golden answer is. If the agent can get close to that, right, and they score high, right, or low. But sometimes you'll be surprised that the LLM actually gets a better answer. Right? So this is the case where it's not fully benchmarkable, because if the humans cannot create that benchmark, right, it's beyond humans. Sometimes it's going beyond humans. So we have lots of examples, actually, where an AI solved a math problem that was previously believed to be unsolvable. Right? Those problems, of course, are not that interesting, but it's more like nobody was looking at it or nobody spent enough time on it, right? Things like that. Right? Maybe again, the point of the benchmarks, it could be for coding, it could be for literally just factual benchmarks. Right? Like around, does it actually know when President John Adams was born? Right? Some sort of a benchmark around those things that you know this thing is true, right? And then you expect the LLM to give you a similar answer, right? Okay. And so again, just went to the agent. Pretty much just use it. You should always start by trying to build trust with it. You should feel like you can trust this agent to do the job. Right? So good examples are, repeatable tasks. Check my email, check for reminders, right? Write me a summary of this thing. Something that you can look at, and it's like, okay, very clearly this did the right thing, because this is what I would have done. Right? You can ground it in what you would have done, right? Something that's kind of hard is, I don't know, take my social security number and fill in my taxes, right? Where's that number going to go? Right? You never know, right? Even if it does something wrong, you can complain to Anthropic, you can complain to ChatGPT. But it is your identity that is now out there, okay? So, and again, another bad thing is unclear goals or hidden context. So, or honestly, just unclear prompting. So, in my experience working with other people, okay, the most important skill now is no longer coding. The most important skill is now writing. Writing proper English or Chinese, whatever. Other people, they write sentences, and I read it. They're prompting the agent, and they go like, say, Daniel, why can't I get this to work? It's doing the wrong thing. I go read their sentence, and it makes no sense. Right? And they don't realize they don't realize it's not actually clear what they're asking for. Right? So because these systems are, again, processing natural language, right, you have to make sure your language is very clear. It has to be very rigorous, very clear, right? So you have to, a good test for prompting is you literally, before you give it to agent, you say, hey, I give it to Daniel, I give it to Dr. Y, what does this mean? And Dr. Y looks at it, I don't know what this means. And there's no chance the agent's going to know what that means. Because the agent is just trained on human data. Right? It's not going to be able to interpret if your sentence doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So again, just start simple. Right? Like one task, right? One task check, right? You summarize my documents, right? Step 2 is actually interesting. Give an example. So there's something we call few-shot prompting. Actually, it's more formal. What that means is you don't just tell it what to do, but you say, okay, if my task is, summarize this document. And your examples you provide in your prompt is you say, okay, here is another thing I summarized, the original document, and then that summary, right? The summary that I like. So you can steer it toward the format you like, and the writing stuff you like, right? Okay, so few-shot prompting. Give it some examples, right? And then you require review, so you always tell it, come back to me. He gives the answer to you, and then you look at it and you say, this is bad, this is how I want it to be different, or you think this is good, and then you let it do it. Right? And then number 4 is, again, cognitive safety. You only expand access if you've proven that this is didn't do anything bad, and you feel like the access to documents you actually do, right? I'll use that. So, yeah, pretty much the AI agents are just, you can think of them as living things. They're not living things. You don't have to, it's okay. If you turn off the agent, it doesn't die. It's not a living thing. But it is basically acting like a very helpful assistant, right? And so you should try to delegate those very mundane things, right, to the agent so that you have more time to build those, to actually focus on those harder problems, right? Yeah, we are living in a very great time, actually. It's a great time to be in the industry because something that used to take me, a month, right? Fabricate agent I showed you at the beginning, probably take me a month to build now before AI. But if I have an AI agent, I can build another agent in a day. Right? So now I can access even harder problems, right? I can be hard problems. How good is that agent? It's a very hard problem. I can spend a lot more time researching those problems. And then running those experiments is a lot easier because then I don't have to do any of the painful, searching the web, paging through books, right? Collecting information, reading through various pages, obscure research papers, so on. It saves you a lot of time, right? So yeah. But ideally, things where the work is clear, repeated, and reviewable. Okay. Ideally, it's an ideal case. How much time? Okay. We have 30 from. Yeah, some sources. I guess, okay, the data is on that. We can talk a little bit about anything. It's a lot of fun. So let's do it like this. Any questions while I get this set up?
What is some practical advice for regular people that don't have technical background that started this? For myself, I tried to install WeBookClub and I tried to connect it to a model, install tools, the knowledge base and stuff. It's a very time-consuming process.
I think I guess you have used just ChatGPT on the phone, right?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't have access to files on your computer. It's not connected to. Well, sometimes it does connect to apps that it deems useful, but it's not connected to apps that I need. So chat, it's basically a chat window kind of thing is not.
Yeah. The ChatGPT stuff is actually very, I would say, better in the sense that it has those sandbox capabilities now. You can create like work in a project. I should have actually probably built the slides in ChatGPT and not locally. That would have actually probably been easier to manage. I would probably not. I don't use OpenClaw myself, actually. In fact, nobody I know uses OpenClaw or Cloud. And anyways, we just don't feel like it's very safe. Like,
Yeah,
it's also very, the big thing with those computer use agents, so the guys that stick around, is very token expensive. The reason it's token expensive is that it has to take pictures of your screen and then move the mouse and be like, oh, this, and one screenshot of your screen is like, 1,000 times more tokens than like a single word you have typed, right? So I would only go as far as to say that I would say that if you install codecs or Claude Code, those desktop apps, those are actually pretty good at also navigating your computer. Yeah. That's actually how I built this slideshow. It was actually using codecs. And it was like, okay, I know how to create a MacBook style already. So it doesn't actually have to use the app. It knows how to create a something else you can look up is also Model Context Protocol, MCP, if you're familiar with those. Those are basically ways for agents to talk to other applications without having to click around so hard and spend so many tokens. So if that application you want to use has an MCP, you can install that MCP into your codex or your plot. And then you don't need this open plot setup. Right? It should be all better for your token usage.
Yeah, I tried a lot of solutions. I'm just asking for basically the group here, like what your recommendation is as a first step. Because I tried to install Codex, I tried to use Gemini CLI, install that on terminal, and tried to basically ask it to do stuff in the app, like in a folder. It still requires a little bit of technical knowledge and yeah, just.
Yeah, I mean, why don't you guys see this, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's say I'm not a technical. Okay. So let's see how this goes. So just kind of be slow. You are right though about that. So he's basically saying it still feels like you need technical knowledge, right? I would say though there's still a bare minimum of the language needed to describe things. So we have worked with people who are at my previous work. We have people who have no technical knowledge, right, of like how the computer works, and then they run into problems like, oh, it turns out they're literally just in the wrong hole, right? But there's still so I think basically what I think every year what's happening is that gap is getting smaller, and so you can do two things. One is you can wait until wait 6 months for Opus 4.9 to drop, and then maybe that will make your life way easier. Right? That's actually that is actually a well-researched concept of slacking. Doesn't mean you're slacking off, but basically maybe I should wait till a better thing so I can start this thing later, and then maybe that actually saves me.
That's a good point. Things are changing so fast. Like in the past 6 months, I've seen models improve.
Yes. So talking about the model improvement. So if you were building if you were building a SaaS business in 2024, you're kind of in a tough spot. You spend a lot of investor money on something that can be built in 1/100th of the time. So maybe it was better to not do anything at all.
A lot of the software companies are basically the networks.
Yes.
So to put them with
yes. So it's a tough question. The classic version of slacking it was before AI even existed. Slacking was more pertaining to computer hardware improvements. So we talk about Moore's law. Every 2 years, the amount of memory you can have, the same amount of space doubles. Right? Same kind of thing was applying to CPUs and GPUs. They're exponentially getting better, right? So then the question was, if I want to calculate, a million digits of pi, should I do that now or should I wait a year and then do it then? Because maybe then, if I start a year later, it'll take me 3 months versus now it'll take me 2 years. The total, I'll actually get the answer sooner if I start later. Right? So these kinds of questions are very helpful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes?
Just a question for some folks. So if you're a non-technical individual, and let's say you want to build this way, what would be the easiest way to do it without downloading anything? Like the ChatGPT itself do that for you? Does Claude Opus 4.8 do that for you? Just a repeat question over here. So, if you're a non-technical person and you're installing codecs, Claude person, all that kind of stuff, it's like, oh my god, I get scared. Is there a way for you to do that on the online version? So let's say, I want you to analyze this report, so you drag it and drop it in there. And if so, which one would you recommend?
Yes. So all of the online providers. So the best ones are going to be ChatGPT or Claude for UX, right? They have heavy competition with people actually. So, so those ones are kind of ones that the most full-fledged platform where you can upload, like you said, a PDF or image, search the web, whatever, things like that. And so I would recommend one of those two. And again, what I said earlier was you might as well try them both. Why do I say you should try them both? Because you're going to paste it and go do something else anyways. So you might as well, so these days, a lot of what you see is this, because of this new work style, completely new work style, where you're not focusing on one thing. Now the work style, you have to manage sort of many parallel workflows or many like different workflows in parallel, right? And your job is just to pick the best one, right? So you're getting a way better result, obviously, than if you've done it yourself. But that's kind of the comparison. So you're like, oh, I did it in this one or that one. I'm gonna pick the best one because it's like so cheap, right? It saves me, I think there was another question actually. Yes.
Thank you. The domain, anything.com, it sounds very ambitious to me.
Yes.
What is the limit? Or is there limits at all?
What is the limit?
Yeah, I mean, if I want to build anything, I can build anything, right?
Yeah.
Is there a limit?
Yes. Okay, great. That's a great question. So, like, what is the limit of anything.com itself? So I just need something very. I hope you guys can enjoy this animation. It's like that's actually real work. That's not a fake thing. That's actually the real code spreading as it goes. Okay. So anything.com sort of answer your question, I think, but for like very non-technical. Again, for me, when I built Chinese Arena, so I'm an AI engineer, right? Okay, or AI researcher, but I actually don't know much about websites themselves. I know how to build agents that build websites, but I don't build websites by hand. That was never in my career path, right? So I was able to build that Chinese Arena website with logins. It actually has subscriptions, payments to. Actually, people who build a business, basically. So at least for anything.com, their thesis is that this is a text-to-business product. It's not a text-to-app. App is part of your business. Right? It could be a website for your business. It could also be a mobile app. So the two main things are basically, iPad apps, iOS apps, and websites. So it can't do anything just yet, because it can't do, for example, fabricate. It can't do hardware devices. So anything.com is a very ambitious name, and it costs us a lot of money to buy it. Bought from some guy who's held it since the 90s. And he bought probably 1,000 different words. It is now turning a profit, right? From all the AI systems that are kind of going. So yeah, it can't do literally everything. That's kind of more the ambition, right? Is that eventually you can do everything. But yeah, for now it's just like, you build websites, you build mobile apps. Those mobile apps can be either Android or iOS apps, or you build something for that. So, for example, you can't build a app for Linux or something like that. We don't support it. We're very ambitious. Thank you.
Is this called vibe coding?
Yes, this is called vibe coding. Yes. So vibe coding is opposed to. So yeah, the question was, is this called vibe coding? Yes. This is 100% vibe coding in the sense that I'm not typing a single word while this thing works away.
Do you think it's kids friendly? 6th
Of
grade?
course, yeah, of course. And you should get the kids to use it. If you have to. Yeah, of course.
So,
How many users? How many users now?
I don't know the exact user count. When I joined anything.com in 2025, it was simply a $100,000 a year business. Okay, so it's $100,000. Now it is 2020. As of January 2026, it was a $7 million a year business. Right? So basically 70x, right, the amount of revenue. So I don't know the hard number of users, but the total revenue we're very good at.
so for someone who has no technical background at all, and will I be able to use by leveraging your website to build an agent to help me to review my emails?
That's too much.
Oh, that's a great question. So this is for anything.com is for building apps. But your question about reviewing your emails. So there will be a launch of a new product by anything. It's called Skydive. That is for creating any agent you want in the club. So actually, I should have answered your question by saying that. You asked me how would anybody non-technical get started with agents. I should have said you should wait for the skydive.com launch and when they launch that. Yes. But I don't work there anymore. But I'm very excited to see watch those succeed. Yes, it can read your emails, it can join your Slack, it can do anything. But it's called Skydive, not anything. Yes.
So what's the difference between this platform and, say, if I were to use Cursor or Codex on
That's really good. So that's really good question. So he asked, what is the difference between Cursor or Codex versus this? So Cursor Codex is basically agent. It's an agent running on your computer. It is your computer just has whatever it's on. Anything.com is kind of like a business toolbox in the sense that it will also get you a free database on board. It will set up user accounts for you. You can buy your domain, www.whateveryourbusinessname.com. Actually, I can buy
So
it.
it's basically one-stop.
Yes, it is one stop. I can get a custom domain right there if I click that button. Right? So they already have everything hooked in. You can get Stripe and you can get iOS mobile payments all set up without leaving this website ever. Right? So it is doing a lot more legwork for you, basically, compared to Cursor. But a lot of people choose to use that route as well because they like to dominate own their own code.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And in any case, you can always download your code. It's like a button. Okay? I don't even look at code anymore. You can download it if you want to. Click that button, you can go. No one's holding your code.
Like personally, I've been using Cursor and GitHub and myself for deploying.
Yeah.
Like, I need to integrate these services.
Yeah.
So this
right.
is basically.
So this would do that all for you. So you don't. Yeah. So when I built my Chinese arena learning website, I didn't do any Vercel. I hate clicking the buttons too. I don't want to think about like connecting Vercel, Supabase, whatever, this thing, that thing. It's like, but that's what agents are for. Right? They're supposed to kind of stitch those things for you, right? Because the process is so manual. It's kind of boring, right? You like take that API token and you paste it in yourself. Right? So that was basically the whole vision around anything was that. Oh, well, yeah, of course, it's all boring. So we should build you a platform that you just have it all automatically. So you don't have to go do those things. This is exactly why we say this is like more non-technical friendly. You don't have to know what Supabase is. You don't have to know what an API key is. You don't have to be careful not to paste that API key into some chat, right? So a lot of people, they take an API key, they paste it in the chat, they send it. The first thing that a cloud or Codex will say is like, oh, don't paste that here. You have to go rotate it. Go change it. Go burn that key. Yes. Go change it. And then they get a new key, they paste it again. You have to get a new one. Stop pasting in the chat, right?
So is this also an agent?
This is an agent. So that was an agent that built me this website, right? And that agent is built using agents, right? And that agent built that agent we use to build this agent, that is shipped by some people were using Cloud Code, some were using Codex. And then those people at OpenAI and Anthropic are using the agent to build itself. So it's all agents now. It's kind of a dead internet theory scenario. There's no almost it's almost all agents talking.
What do you think would be the next generation of agents?
Next generation of agents? Good question. Next generation. I think it will be a lot more of the. So this is kind of an example of like a very good maybe V1 2024 2025 style. The thing I mentioned about Skydive, kind of like an agent that you just start on the top, right? It just kind of does everything. Connect to your email, your Slack, your GitHub, right? You like Supabase, you like or whatever, connect all those sort of things. I think that is like a more like a next-gen kind of agent where it can safely and not on your own machine, right? Like a lot of people, what they do is install local. Yes. So it's like a fully safe cloud version of this agent, right? And I think another part of this, so not just the Mertz comment, the thing about these V1 kind of agents is they will do one thing and then they will stop, right? Something a lot of people talk about now in AI is they talk about goals rather than tasks. These V1 agents are very good at handling tasks. I give it a task, like build me a to-do list. Already, this has saved me like potentially a day of work. I don't have to worry about it. But a V2 kind of agent that we're very excited about is more like giving it goals. Like the goal is not to build a to-do list. The goal is to make millions of dollars, right? The goal is to get me more users for my business, right? Or the goal is to, find, safety audit my own website, right? Like, these things are more like, how do I ensure that, I retain users on the platform? These are not tasks, these are goals. Those goals are like very long-running tasks, basically. They're goals that the agent works towards that are kind of endless. They don't end. See, the V1 kind of work is very much about the V1 kind of work is very much like you do A and then it finishes, you come back. These background, we call them background agents. I was trying to remember background agents. The agents that run 24/7 all the time, they never get tired, they don't get derailed, and they always work towards your goal. Your goal is, get me more users onto my website or whatever, or like whatever. Like take this, do this entire research project for me, right? So like something now that 10 minutes, it's like more like weeks and weeks of work, they're nonstop. These are the nonstop background agents. Is the next generation.
But I just feel like if they're doing everything, what's the meaning of me being? Because
What is the meaning of?
that's the word still need me.
Yes, the world still needs you. So I'll get to your question. I see her. So the question was, what happens if the AI agents can do all these things, right? What happens to us, right?
You still don't know what you need.
Yes. So one question is, you still don't know. Okay, that's a good answer. You still don't know what you need. You still have to give it those goals. It doesn't decide the goals. People have been saying that for a very long time. Like, people said, with the internet, right? It's like, what happens to me? I'm a travel agent or something. I do something that's free and but yet somehow there are more jobs. Even in software development, people are always like, before there were punch cards, people would work so hard, they punch the holes to get the codes. And then they're like, then Bell Labs invested this thing called C, right? They had compilers. And like, no, it's making the jobs sweet. But that is not what happens. Basically, there are now more jobs. Somehow there are more jobs because the cost of doing something is much lower, which means that the surface of all possible things you could possibly work on is actually bigger now because you're not blocked by lots of mundane kind of tasks.
So all I need to do is to be more.
Could we ask questions when you ask questions? Could they stand up? Because we will consider others, so others they can hear the questions. Okay, rather than it will be like, is that okay? Yeah. When you ask questions, please stand up and then ask questions towards everyone, so people know. So people know what you are asking.
Come up and we can talk.
Yeah, exactly. Is that okay?
With my
But with mic, once you use a mic, you have to turn it off because otherwise there will be static noises. And if you are asking, there's another question, so we could ask a question, and then because other people don't know what the question was. Oh, okay. So, sir, you have a next question? Yeah. Well, once you ask your question, just turn it off and give it to the next step, so everyone can enjoy the conversation.
Thank you. Just turn it off with a button. Thank you.
Gotcha. This is more of a technical question.
Yeah, thank you.
Take your brain off it. So, we're talking about version 1, we work towards version 2 of the Internet Agent. I presume it's the ability to keep track of tasks, right? You set a goal, make me a to-do list app so that I am able to do, fitness campaigns so that I'm able to bring in people in. Okay, now we are doing the to-do list app, we completed task number 1. How does anything with Fabricate be able to tell the agent, we've done step number 1, go to step number 2, and then when we finish step number 2, go to step number 3?
Okay, that's a good question. So talking about kind of the long-term horizon planning, right? So actually, a lot of people have tried to solve this. So anything we actually build something is on this too. You might have seen something called plan mode. Have you seen that? Plan mode. Okay. So basically, the way to kind of get to V1.5. I was talking about V2. V1.5 was basically how do we kind of get there, right? The answer is basically like. I'm kind of saying it circularly. The answer is basically context management using, so you mentioned a to-do list, right? So it is actually the agent that remarks that this task is done. Right? So the agent calls a tool. So I was talking about tools about email, right? One of those tools can be the to-do list tool. decides that that thing is done or not. Now, whether you trust the agent that that task is actually done is a harder question. Right? That question is also an open kind of research question. Right? Okay, well, what is the fidelity of it deciding that that thing is done? That is a more something we call like agent lint rules. So that's actually, I should have had a slide on it, because that's something we also research at anything, because this AI lint rule kind of thing. How do you check that the work is actually done, right? But the answer is basically some combination of managing your to-dos, allowing the agent to decide when those to-dos are done, and then also context compression. So you often see that you often hear about models have 200K context window or 1 million token context. A lot of conversations will be longer than that, especially if you paste the whole PDF, right? They'll get very long very fast. Right? And then we have the context compression is one thing. How do you shrink it? Because there's a lot of noise in those conversations. You shrink it. Right? The other thing is sort of memory management. So memory is a little bit different. Memory is more like creating a reservoir of things the users talk about, right? And then those look kind of like files, right? And then it no longer has to keep everything kind of in one tall conversation. You can then kind of put those out into files and then like search those files. So it's just looking at little pieces around it. So yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Actually, I want to ask, has anybody here tried to use anything.com yet? Not yet, right? Actually, I wanted to show something very quickly.
Oh, really?
Can I come here?
Yes.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
You made that.
I made it. So while he was speaking, I just took a picture and I did it here.
What's that?
It looks like a Uber kind of Uber Eats. Oh, with me on it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So I don't know how it works. Well, what I did was that I took a picture of him and I sent a prompt asking the app to produce a video introducing food culture.
Wow.
And then this is what it brought.
Amazing.
But actually it was moving. I didn't want to make noise here, so I don't know if it actually works. But if that is the case, that's really great. I mean, basically you can just input a picture, asking.
Oh, it is moving. It is moving.
But that's a speed.
Whoa.
Is that sound?
Sorry?
Is that sound?
Sorry?
Yes. Yeah,
Is there sound?
I can't hear it again.
Can we plug in a?
We don't have a USB-C too.
No.
So, yeah, hopefully it speaks.
That's
But
pretty cool.
the way how it shows that he is speaking, and we don't know if it's actually he is speaking, but it's not.
Wow.
So I was very curious how you made this work. Did you
So,
give
I make
us-
the video?
Yeah, how this,
Anything.
anything, I mean, how you made this system work.
Yes. So yeah, so it's a big system. Oh wow, it's like literally look kind of like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Without knowing this, you probably like me don't know what actually anything.com can do. But actually it does everything.
Yeah. I think
Your best advertisement.
I think the big thing again. So thank you so much for
That's fine.
yeah, thank you so much for again. The thing is, if you don't try, you don't know. Right? So thank you very much for that.
I'm still very serious how it works though.
Yeah. That's all I answer. But yeah, so please try any tool you can think of. Right? You pick up anything, you see your cursor, whatever. You try it, you'll be surprised. I was probably the most apprehensive. Despite me being an AI agent engineer, I was probably one of the last people to stop coding. Because I feel like, I'm so good at this. No agent is as good as me. I don't think it's as good, but it's faster than this. And if it does this faster, that's still okay. So I still think I'm better.
You mentioned sorry.
Oh, but I meant to answer his question.
Oh, there's another question, right?
Sorry, I need to answer your question.
Yes,
How does it
please.
work? Yes. So I mentioned tools, right? So I talked a lot about email search and like searching the web. These coding agents, they have a tool called write for files, right? And I also mentioned something about how the agents, the LLMs have been trained on the entire world of human knowledge. A lot of that knowledge is just factual data. Like when was George Washington born? A lot of facts, nice facts. So it's nice. That functions more like Google search. But then a lot of that data is actually GitHub data. If you know about GitHub, GitHub is where all of the coders in the world went to share themselves coding. There's a lot of open source data. You can see this guy says, I fixed this bug. Here's the difference between the file before and after. Or here's the fresh file. That data is what goes into the LLM, and the LLM now knows how to code. So when you tell it, build me backend, right? It has an enormous amount of data, both from the open web and generated synthetically by these AI labs, right? So it knows how to write Python code, knows how to write TypeScript code, React code, right? And it basically wrote a bunch of files to a file system, and then it compiled that code using a tool call. It wrote the files and compiled code like a human would do, basically. So it's been trained on a large amount of coding data, and then reinforcement learning with human feedback, supervised fine-tuning, a lot of like AI training. Basically, wanted to teach it to do this.
Did you implement any bigger models like ChatGPT or clouds into your structure so that all these top-level AI systems will actually work for this system? Or you code everything just from your own strength to make it work?
So, okay, there's two parts to that question. Yes, so like the agent that runs in, the agent running in anything.com, its core model is going to be probably one of those Claude models, 4.6. So it's like a brain it's just like your ChatGPT. It's brain. But then there's this whole system built around it, which is like, how can it make videos, right? Or how can it get a website domain for you or get the account set up, right? A lot of that is this additional like sort of machine it sits inside of, right? Imagine like those sci-fi movies, guys in like a big robot, right? Controls the robot, right? So like anything is kind of like this huge system around it, tiny brain. The brain is very simple, but it's not very capable on its own. It needs that system around it to enable it to act on the world as that agent, right? And then the other question is like coding it. Yes, so last year, 2025 was a year of a lot of hard work, because that is when we coded by hand. Right? So we build that agent by hand. It's a lot of hard work on your brain. Yes, a lot of human sweat goes into it. Now it's more like, okay, well, the coding agents are so good, so can't I just code it using a codex? Or maybe I can code it using itself, right? Actually, we did do that, actually. So it was the case that the anything agent, when it runs into an error, okay, it says, like, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do. And it's like, wait, actually, I'm an agent too, so it's self-aware. And so it kind of knows how to repair itself. It would create a pull request into GitHub. And then some human would just wake up and check it and say like, oh, this pull request is good or bad. And it actually fixed several bugs actually that like people did not have enough time to do it by hand. It was very, very, very cool to wake up and see that the agent builds itself or repairs itself. It's actually kind of crazy that it can do that. Right? So we're living very excited now.
So this function, I think it's very strong, very powerful.
Yeah.
Did you actually have to pay for some important features to be activated? Or you, as the company, is actually doing all this without, paying for the support from other models?
So the question, like, did we pay for those?
Yeah, because the reason why I was asking was some days ago, a friend actually sent me this. This is why I tried to test it. That so basically they can upload a picture, and then they can make a live video, and that costs a lot of money. If you want to make one video, you need to pay for it. The reason why they are paying because they have to pay for those models to make it work. That's why the clients have to pay for this. So my question was, how does this system work?
Yeah, so there is still the core. Basically, it is because it is leveraging that core model shipped by the lab. Anything has a read into this, and we have some discounted rate because we are guaranteeing a very large bulk of users, right? So we get a better rate than any individual user would get going to Anthropic directly or ChatGPT. And then therefore we can give a better price than as if you had just gone directly, right? You get basically a better rate. So it is still very much like an exchange between fundamental lab ship a core model. So we are one of those businesses that provides a very like an exosuit, like a robotic system around it, right? Yeah. So it's basically working. So it basically still leverages the core elements, what they're doing. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Can you advise, like, I have a son, 11 years old. Does he still need to learn coding because he just needs to speak, what I think right now. But I guess there is logic behind. He might still has to learn, but I don't know like how.
Yeah, I think so. The question is like, do you still have to learn to code? So I think learning to code is still a great thing to do, so that you can review what the agent did. So something I talked a lot about is that you should review what the agent did. So even if we're leveraging these tools, it's very tempting to just say, this is good, just the agent did accuracy, right? But it's still the case, right? So I was talking about very simple hallucination cases. Oh, it tells me something that sounds right, but it's not true. And I know because I'm an expert. There's many times we get so that thing I was talking about earlier, the AI, the AI agent puts up a chain. So some of them were great. It's a great thing to read it. It was great. We didn't think about that. But many of the times it puts something that is completely wrong, right? And so I think there's a lot of value to still learning to code. I think the things I would focus on is more of the fundamental computer science. So things like how algorithms work, data structures, right? How operating systems work. I would not worry as much about anymore how web frameworks, like React or whatever, mobile framework. These things are kind of boring. Those are more like how you get an app to like run on a device. Those things are very boring to me. So I'm very happy that they're AI agents. So I just think those things are like everyone should still like if you're going to use it's ideal that you still at least know how it works so you can review what's going on. Okay. But nobody spends so much time like reading so diligently. But I would say yeah, like it's still good to learn. But a lot of success stories people don't like code by hand. I don't do it.
Okay, we don't have time for too many specific questions from everybody. So we will let the presentation go on. And afterwards, we will have some time for a few more questions, but not too many because the time is limited. Okay, so let's Daniel continue with the presentation, and we hold up your questions until the end. Okay?
Yeah, I think I was basically good at the insurance, but I think all I wanted to show is just that, like, see, this is actually, again, while we were talking, so again, your background is, right, so, I don't know, or something. So, right, so this is a real app that's actually working. Right? The cool thing is the chat on the left. So, I mentioned kind of earlier, you don't have to be an expert to do this. So, it used to be in the old days, you have to go to some database provider and plug it in. In this world, right, anything exosuit, it just gets a database set up for you. So you never have to think about where that database is or getting that thing plugged in. And no technical knowledge, right? Let me see. And again, kind of going off earlier, how does it do it? Well, okay, so it's a real, it writes real TypeScript code to that. Of course, you don't have to know this. All you have to know is that it changed something, right? By your code. This is also very cool. They actually ran into an error. It says some sort of maximum call stack problem. It's really a classic bug. It's something that just has bothered developers for decades, right? Kind of just keeps going. And then eventually runs it, does some sort of shenanigans. And it's fixed. So don't have to know anything about coding here, right? And then I'm going to this will just work. It might take a second. I'll let that go. Mobile version 2. Here's your database too. So the database is inside of the system. So we actually provide you the record. Ideally, you never have to look at this stuff. because it's kind of interesting. Like people say like, well, I need to go to the database. It's like, well, why can't my agent just go to the database? Tell me. Agent is my employee, right? I'm the CEO. I don't do any of the front lines, anything, right? And there's some code here. And there's all this code. Yeah. So going back to the question about is it worth running code? So there's a lot of material online for coding that I think is not worth doing. So a lot of courses around, like building websites, whatever, stuff like that, right? You see, there's all this stuff where there's like this. What is this thing? There's this like there's whatever. There's this next config, whatever. There's this thing, there's that thing. Nobody needs to know this. Okay? A lot of that is just the plumbing. It's kind of like plumbing, right? It's just like there's just some level of specificity that is needed for the machine system to understand, right? The things that are important in coding, right? So basically, like one is like, yeah, you understand like when I read code, what is it actually doing? Like algorithms, right? I read this code and I go, like, okay, whatever. Use state, so use state. I'm not going to explain code. But it's like, basically, it's like when I read it, I don't care about any of the code or anything. I just read this and go, okay, I can see that it saved a value as an empty string using use state. And then whatever, also save one on the like the basic things. I can kind of like reading a book. You should still be able to read the book but know what's going on. But I'm not going to read that little, that index glossary thing at the back or the publisher details on the top. There's a lot of like people who focus on those things. Not very important, right? They just publish. No, I didn't publish. Okay. Is there a question? I think, let's see. Question? You have a question?
Just move on, yeah.
No, I mean, I think I was at the end of the presentation.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is my nice introduction. So I got a question here. I follow the as prompt engineer, right?
Yes.
So for the next generation, we're going to be good story, like I think I
Very
learned
good writers.
good storytellers and good writers,
Yes.
not literally, but also in maybe with a critical and logical thinking, and that will help us to write proper prompt to the requirement and the task of the project we're going to accomplish. So, so also maybe what you mentioned earlier about tokens. Okay, so those are something we know that comes a lot, and it's very popular recently. So, like when when anybody trying to build a small task or a small project, or like something bigger project with LLM, with a large database. So how could we use it for give a correct or more efficient path so that we will not go through many tokens? We are talking about tokens can be thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So talk about the token efficiency, right? So the pixels in the picture, right? You need tokens for the pixel versus words can be tokenized. So like something like the word something is 2 tokens. So maybe 2 tokens is maybe like 4 pixels. But wait, how many pixels are in your image, right? So a lot of what I see is that people will burn their tokens very fast because what they do is they will take a picture of a website, they paste it back into that chat window. They say, this is wrong. So there's 2 problems with this. One, you pasted a lot of tokens. You're using a lot of tokens to read the image. And then 2, you didn't even say what was wrong with it. It would have been better to just type in text what you did, because the text is very efficient. And you are forced to actually say what is actually wrong. Right? Otherwise, the agent has to guess, right? It might know that they might like read something on your screen. Okay, maybe that's wrong. This is. So like going back to like I think the most efficient way is the very clear language. Yes, people can get stuck in a loop because they're not very clear at saying what is it they want, and they're expecting the agent to somehow guess what is the thing that is wrong. Right? But people don't realize they're not actually being very clear. So, and ideally you don't paste a whole video recording of your work. Unless you absolutely have. Sometimes we do that because it's like, oh, something with the way the website needs to function to run. We want to make it just fast. But ideally you also, when you paste, you always give the textual description, saying that, okay, here's what I see. The thing that is wrong is that it's slow, or you can see it covers, like one thing covers another thing, right? So the font size is too big. So be very specific, right?
Also, maybe in AI, fabricate means something we are trying to, like, what's the reason, like, any reason the website name fabricate?
Fabricate. Okay, so the fabricate, I want to put it a little briefly. So the fabricate as in fabrication, so meaning like to make something like physical, right? So the kind of the dream is that like you know, right now there's so many website builders, maybe 10 of them, no, maybe 20 of them. I think we bought one actually, so I was 19, so there's one less of them. But the vision of being able to, you know, create like a meeting recording device or something, right? And go get it shipped to some sort of original design manufacturer in Shenzhen or maybe India somewhere, right? Is like very exciting. So that sort of vision is that, like, you know, you go to fabricate, you can fabricate anyway, but we can't get anything.com. That is taken by my previous role, unfortunately. So there's a little bit too much protection. So yeah, that's kind of the name behind fabricate. And the vision is that, you know, not only do you create the model, but you can get connected to the actual manufacturer overseas that will build you that thing, right, at a very good cost. And you can maybe even compare providers, right, and get that shipped. So that's pretty much the dream.
Is that possible to show your prototype? Like you said, you're gonna launch to review emails for us. It's too early.
It is to. I don't want to demo it on my personal emails or whatever.
Oh.
But I also don't know like how good is it, right? Like AI safety. I'm being cautious. Right?
Okay.
But you can try. You can. I want to say like which platforms. ChatGPT might have a connectivity to it. I'm not sure if they do. But yeah.
Sorry.
It's available.
It's available. Yeah. You can try it with ChatGPT. See like is it gonna like do it in a way that. I don't actually personally use email somewhere else. So I don't have that many emails. Maybe when I get too many, then I will use them.
So there are a lot of startups now. You know, people are leveraging, you know, vibe coding and stuff. There's so many softwares being developed.
Yes.
So what do you think is going to differentiate between the successful ones?
Yes.
And what are, you know, some advice you can provide to developers of software platforms, how they can build something that's going to stand out from the competition?
Right. So that's a good question. So it's basically talking about, okay, now that it's so easy to build software, what's the difference? If everyone can kind of build this software, right? I think there are two parts of it. One is literally doing hard things, so hardware things. You can't argue that this, and even if you could do it very well, someone still has to make it. So the physical world is very hard. It's harder than any amount of software. That's a big goal of fabricate is that, you know, we're already partnering with like Mitsubishi Motors overseas, and like how do we use AI agents make their ODM data, right? So like optimize your applications, right? Optimize the assembly line, right? Whatever. These things are just very hard, and you can't really do it from your background because a lot of that knowledge is, let's say, it's like almost like dark. It doesn't exist on the website, on the web, kind of in the same way that all that coding kind of exists on the web. People share kind of thing. A lot of these operations, they don't write it online. They don't get anything from doing it. It's kind of their trade secret, right? So this sort of thing kind of connects to the second one, with distribution. Right? They need really good distribution. Right? We have a lot of strong competitors in AI building. So anything.com, I think, is a very good platform. We two of our big competitors, one of them is Lovable. They have very good distribution, right? So like even if maybe their product is okay, it's like pretty good, right? But they are very good at getting those like those contracts, whatever, negotiate, say like, okay, we can do this, that for you, right? So like you can't just like the sales stuff is still like very like, you know, getting those connections, distribution is still kind of like a non-trivial thing. And then I think that again, going back to the ODM doors, it's not easy to get connected. We are connected because we have a connection to Shenzhen for that. But getting those connections is not easy. Like you can't just go up to them and say, I'm an AI writer from wherever, from Ottawa. I want to do this. They'll say like, well, why don't I just do that myself? There's still these questions of like, you know, what is the value And at the end of the day, it's like, even if, kind of going back to what I said, even if it's getting easier, that just means the bar is high. It doesn't mean that everyone gets a 1-hour workday. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. It means everyone needs to do 100 times more in the same 8 or 9 hour day, whatever you do. Yes. Thank you. Okay. I need water. I ran out of water. Yeah. Okay.
How can we connect with you?
Yes, if you want to connect with me, you can email me. So, want to ask me something, so. So I have a website. You can email me at that's my email. If you'd like to reach out to me about anything, Daniel at fabricate.to. I also have a personal website. That's also my personal website at the bottom. If you want to read more about those research papers, blog posts, whatever, my personal link is along there. And that will also have a.
It's a little side question.
Presentation slides, is it possible to share with
I can share that. I can share that. Yeah, I'll get that sent into the club.
I think I have a little side question. You are an entrepreneur and you're founder of the company. So my question is about how much VC you got. Is that easier now at this moment because you're Chinese? And in Silicon Valley, so many Chinese and so many AI people from China or Chinese background.
Yeah,
is that so easy so we can make some agent to just make a VC specific agent to get more money?
So we are doing the angel round. So we're almost finished our angel round, like 200,000 USD. So always those rounds are always small, just to like make the company exist, right? And like ideally we'd like to do a seed round. I would say that the seed round would be like $1 million, $2 million to give us get some valuation. I would say that, so I think part of the question was like, is it easier, like, how hard is it to get funding right now? I think now is a very exciting time to be a founder because I think everybody wants to invest in AI. It's a very hard time to be an employee at Google and you're always laying off people. So it's a little bit backwards. So I think from 2010 to 2010 to 2024 was a great time to be an employee at Amazon, Google, or Microsoft. You know, you get 2-hour days, you get free lunch, right? Everyone thinks you are so smart because you can program a little here and there. Right? Now it's kind of the inverse. Now it's like everyone wants to invest in these small companies. Right? I think you can do a lot more with AI. It's much cheaper to do this kind of investing.
Because I'm trying to persuade my son right now. He's just shifted to a new job in Databricks. Yes. Should I persuade him to pursue some kind of startup or VC or just like an employee? Just kidding.
So, sorry, you said your son works at Databricks?
Yeah.
He's a software?
Yeah, he's working on Databricks.
Okay, so he's like a software.
Yeah.
He's working in Databricks. Databricks is going to be IPO very soon. But I'm not sure it's good to persuade him to pursue something like you know, and start up, you finding something yourself. Yeah. That question is about the trust. So how can I trust an agent? Where do you verify the quality of the agent? How can you do that before you put everything of trust into this It's like security and privacy. You know, so many personal data around, and where you build the wall.
Yeah, so the security thing, so kind of the wall I talked about, I kind of talked about that wall where that your agent always starts in a kind of a folder or a sandbox on the computer, and it can't go outside of that folder. It's sort of in this folder that's empty. You can do things like auto-approve and give it access to your whole computer if you don't want to review. But if you want to be very secure, you should never allow it access to your computer. Instead, you should put the folders, the files you've already okayed with, into that folder. So you put something into the sandbox for the agent to look at. That file, you had better read it yourself before you put it in. Make sure it doesn't have your social security number or whatever.
Because for me, I have no experience at all, like coding. My background is about technology and genomics, so how can I get 3 months, something like that? I get familiar with that, just play with it, and I check to verify until stage go.
Yeah, I would start with those. So I mentioned also that like ChatGPT, Claude AI are online when you chat. That chat is not just a chat. They actually have a folder in there. You can paste files into that. So that is completely not connected to your computer. And so you can safely paste whatever file, whatever you feel like is safe, into that folder, basically, or into that channel. Right? So in that world, where completely you can be sure that it's not accessing anything besides what you share with them. Right? That's a good starting point because the experience is almost the same. The only difference when you install Claude Code or Codex on your laptop is that you can quickly access all your files. That requires a little bit more permissioning, handling of permissions.
Yeah. I wish my son as aggressive as you.
Ambitious.
Ambitious. Thank you.
I'm an insurance broker, so in the AI world, how can I make myself more presentable via AI? If someone search from AI, they can see more of me. Like what do you suggest? Or using an agent?
Do you have a personal website?
Yeah, the company website.
Sorry, so that's your personal company website.
I have a corporation website already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the simple thing is just that you want to get indexed by all the even before AI agents, the goal was always to get indexed by the search engines. And then now it's like, oh, I want to be indexed by the agents. So
agents.
Yes, by the agents. So what do I mean is that before I had a personal site, I could say, who is Daniel Chen, who works at anything? And again, I don't know. It'd be kind of like, the agent would be, I'm not sure. And like, which Daniel Chen? This is like millions ago, right? There's a lot of Daniel Chen. Now it says, I asked who's Daniel Chen, and it says, actually, Daniel Chen is this AI researcher and now he works at fabricate. The way it knows that is because I created a website about me and all the work I did. So if you want to make your personal resume maybe more accessible to these AI agents, you just create that website. You can create it using AI, actually. You can maybe build it using anything, actually. Publish it. When you publish it, then it will get scraped. Those AI labs are always scraping the whole web, right? They're scraping the whole web. So that website gets scraped and trained. It actually knows about it. Right? So now when someone goes and say, did you say real estate or you said insurance? Right. So now if someone goes, once it gets trained, someone will go into Claude and be like, I need an insurance in Ottawa. And it'll find you because you've been indexed by the training center.
So the key thing is the website and the content in the website.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. There's also things like Twitter or posting on Twitter also gets indexed. I don't know what people use. Do people use Twitter? You guys use something like iPod, something like that.
Social media like Facebook?
Yeah, those are good too. Yeah, but I think the
agent can get information there too.
If you make it a public post. If you publicly post. So this is usually people post, it's only visible to their friends. When you post publicly, that is accessible to the agents.
Can I use agent to help me optimize my website? Or
you can build your whole website. I built my whole
using
website.
editing?
Yeah. My personal website is also built entirely using AI. Okay? So I don't touch anything. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And from the response of our audience and the questions, can see that it's now is everybody's concern, right? How to use AI for our benefit. Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. And this is a special gift prepared by one of our members, Amy. And she's handmade this for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
首创啊，Amy 介绍一下，Amy 是我们的会员，她是在这个阿里巴巴，原来负责这个珠宝平台的这个淘宝上珠宝这个就是供应渠道啊，所以她这个手串呢是她自己的一个作品。谢谢你。This is叫 Extreme Trampoline Park in Canada.
Thank you.
It's a 30 minutes coupon. Four of them, okay? So you can experience that.
It's also sponsored by our member, Linton.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
OK，卢主席 ，Harry， oh come here 我们再次感谢罗主席，今天现场成为我们的会员，并且提供场地赞助，啊，非常感谢，这就是我们的一个礼物。
车就是领导。
我们的摄影记者遍布会场，好 ，OK。好，谢谢主席啊。接下来呢，我们会有这个自由交流的时间。这边呢，这个 Harry 为我们准备了茶点，然后之后呢，我就是意犹未尽，希望继续深度交流的会员呢，可以自愿留下来，我们开餐晚上啊 ，AA 大家随意可以加入，对吧？有事情呢也可以走。等一下我们会照一个合影，啊，接下来我们就照一个合影。我看我们就以这个主席台，前面站一排，对吧？美女们尽量站在前面，然后男士们站在后面，
行不行？好。
然后看看一排不行两排啊。这个我们的六，你指挥一下。啊 ，OK， 谢谢大家。
把这个
六个你指挥。
我现在有拿到话可以指挥了啊！现在我可以把它变成一个 A 型的吗？
对，我忘了补充一下啊。要跟大家说一下，就是刚才呢 ，Daniel 呢就大量时间去回答大家的问题。那么我这里补充一点，就是说 Daniel 他们这个创业公司 fabricate 这个呢是就 do things， 他们要跟这个制造商结合起来，然后以后使得一些消费电子领域的用户，比如说你想卖东西，对吧？在网上卖一个产品，你有一个很好的构思，想做一个电子的产品，那么但是你也不懂如何设计，你也不知道在哪里去生产，这个物流，对吧？这个清关，所有这些手续你都不清楚，怎么办？到 fabricate 这个平台上，它会给你对接，这个制造商。这样的话呢，你只用文字叙述出你的要求，你想做一个什么样的产品，销售给什么样的这个就是说客户，对吧？达到什么样的功能，然后呢，整个这个 AI agent 会帮你把这件事情落地，这就是Daniel 这个创业公司的真正的意义。那么在这个活动之前呢，我跟 Daniel 有一次2个小时的 meeting， 那么我也给他想办法帮助他对接国内的一些厂商，这个在消费电子领域、制造领域，比较有规模的，那么看看能不能他们的构思能够在深圳落地。大家知道，因为深圳是有大量的这个供应链 制造这个就是这个能力的问题。怎么样把这些现代的这个我们讲 AI 的这个工具啊，能够真正应用到实际的领域里头，这个意义非凡。所以我想呢，Daniel 在这个路上我们要就是很艰难，但是呢，这个方向是肯定是很有前途的。那么我们也会将来我们会员呢，包括我们在深圳的关系啊，也有一些从这个 funding 到政府的支持，到企业的这个产业的这个 access， 我们都会尽量给予Daniel 一些帮助，也欢迎我们所有的在座的会员呢提供这方面的帮助，使得我们这个亲眼见到这样一个年轻的有为的一个才俊能够在这个第4次的这个革命里头呢冲在这前面取得成功，我们祝福他，Daniel 再次感谢。